you want to do lookout, that's an excellent choice. All right, so let's get ready. Make sure that we have our stuff. You'll need a ruler. You'll need a pencil. You'll need paper. And of course, you'll need a black crayon or a black marker or a black colored pencil. All right, if you don't have any of those items, now's time to pause and go get them, and then turn the video back on when you're ready. All right, so are we ready? Now, on your ruler, let's talk about your ruler for a second. We're going to be doing measurements that are in between our numbers, and it's the halfway point or the 0.5. If you look very close, you'll see a long line that's in between the two numbers. That is our halfway point or the 0.5 section of that number. So if I go 2.5, I go 1, 2.5. If I do 3.5, I do 1, 2, 3.5. All right? Now, take a look at your ruler too. Some rulers don't start at the very edge. Like this one doesn't start at the very edge. So I'm gonna make sure my paper lines up by this long line right here. If yours has a long line right near the edge, that's where you should start with your paper. You wanna make sure your measurements are really accurate to have the best looking lighthouse possible. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so now that we have our materials and we know how to use a ruler, we're going to measure over 3.5 at the top. I'm going to turn my ruler over, and from the other side, from the right side, we'll measure over 3.5 from that side as well. So now I have 2 marks at the top of my paper. At the bottom of my paper, I'm going to line up my paper where it's supposed to be with the line at the edge. I'm going to go over 2.5 and make a mark. Turn my ruler over, measure up against the edge of the paper, the right-hand side, and go 2.5. So 1, 2.5. Now that I have these 2 lines, I'm going to connect the 2 dots on one side, and then I'll connect the 2 dots on the other side. When you draw your line, remember to make the letter C with your hand that's not holding a pencil. For left-handers, it'll be a backward C like me. And when I put it on the ruler, a thumb will be on one side of the 6. I have 2 fingers holding my ruler on the other side of the 6, and I'm pushing straight down. My other 2 fingers are going to kind of hold the paper. And then when I put my pencil on here, I'm not going to push hard against the ruler. I'm just going to hold it lightly against the ruler and draw the line. So there I have one line. I'm going to draw the other line. 2 fingers on one side of the stick, thumb on the other side, pushing straight down. My 2 fingers are going to hold the paper. I'm going to lightly push against the ruler and then draw my line down. And I have my line. All right, so here's another thing. I'm going to turn my paper, and from the top, the narrow part up here is the top. Can you see the kind of the lighthouse shape that is right here? I see a lighthouse shape right here. But from the top, which is the narrow part, I'm going to measure down to the 8 and mark. So make sure you mark by the long line that's by the 8. That's the proper place. I'm going to go to the other side of the paper, and I'm going to do the same thing, mark where the 8 is. And then I'm going to draw a line right there as well. Now, once again, somewhere on the paper, not inside the lighthouse, but somewhere on the outside, so I'm going to mark every odd number, which is 1, 3, 5, 7. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark 1, 3, 5, 7. Then I'm going to line up these things, and I'm going to make a little small mark on the outside of my lighthouse. Don't go on the inside. Make sure it's marked on the outside. I'm going to go do that all the way down the paper, just making a line, marking on the side of the lighthouse. Those will be important. In just a moment, you'll see why. These will help us create the diamond shape of the lighthouse. Now, there's two ways that we can do this. And one of the ways is to actually kind of fold the paper at the top and give it just a little pinch, all right? And then at the bottom, line up the corners and give the bottom a little pinch. So when you open up your paper, you'll be able to see a line here and a line up here. So I'm gonna put my ruler right there, and I'm gonna draw a very light line. I'm gonna draw mine dark so you can see it, but I want you to draw a very light line right down the center of your lighthouse. And now, all we have to do is draw from one line to the other, okay? All right, here we go. From this line over here, I'm gonna go from this mark at the edge of my lighthouse to the center. And then, now I'm gonna go from mark to mark. From mark to mark. From mark to mark. From mark to mark, the one that's lower. And then from the top to that center line right there. Now I've done this side, so now I have diagonal lines. Now I gotta do the other. So I'm gonna go from the top to the next one down on the opposite side. Mark to mark. And now this one over here, I gotta go up to the very center right there and draw that line. Go from mark from one side to the next bottom one, mark on the bottom on the other side. Go from this line to the next one down on the other side. And of course, I gotta connect from here to the center. And now you have your diamond shape for your lookout lighthouse. Now, if this line is too dark, you can go ahead and take an eraser and erase that center line. You won't need it anymore. And when you color this, make sure you have a black marker. I mean, not a marker. We could use a marker if you wanted to, but I'm gonna use a crayon, or you can use colored pencils, any one of those three that you want to use. You can color the outside half diamonds, if you want to, black, or you're going to color the center ones black. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to color the center ones black and leave the white ones on the outside. Now I'm going to be really careful that I don't go over the lines. I want to keep these lines nice and neat and stay inside my lines and color, okay? I'm going to color all four of these diamonds. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I'm going to pause the video right now and finish coloring, and I'll come back on in just a moment. All right, once you have your diamonds colored, whichever ones you want to do, the ones in the center or the ones on the outside, you can go to the next section about cutting out your lighthouse. See you there.